Hello people, it's Sandy again from Talk of Thailand, and making yet another video, but one with a slight difference actually, because today's video is a result of comments received from a previous video I made referring to the bar girls in Pattaya and in Thailand, where I made some comments about the Lgbt community and also ladyboys, which got an adverse reaction from several people, and I understand that everybody has different things that rock their boat, but I wanted to it inspired me to make this video because I want to try and get people to understand the way I think and the way I behave a bit better. Now, my channel name is Talk of Thailand, as you know, and the videos, I'm going to be making some videos that may on first view make you think, well, this has got nothing to do with Thailand, but they are informational in that they reflect the aspects of my life that have now made my mindset what it is, and have made my points of view and my thoughts, etc. They have all affected what's gone on in my life, and I think it's important if people understand me more, then maybe they'll forgive me when I make the odd faux pas and say something that upsets them in general, and rather than throwing all the toys at the pram, they'll forgive me and carry on. Today's video is going to be the first of these videos that I'm making that is not directly related to Thailand, but it's a story where I had my first close encounter with the gay community, and that encounter didn't come off too well. The place, as you will see behind me, was a Devonport naval base in Auckland in New Zealand. The year was 1972 or 73, I think, one of those 2 years, and it was a wonderful visit there, and if you'd like to know really how that visit went and what happened that affected my mindset then and how it affected my life to date, then I think you'll understand. So if you want to know, please keep watching. And if you find this video interesting or amusing or whatever, and you want to see some of the other stories that I'm going to come up with, because I can tell you I have quite a few things that have happened to me over the years, that some good, some not so good, etc. But most of them I think some people might find interesting. And if you want to see these, then it'd be a good idea to subscribe if you haven't done already. Please like the videos, and please ring the bell so that you're fully updated whenever I make a video. So please keep watching. Thank you. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the actual story itself, I'd like to have a little bit of a preamble actually, just to set the scenery so you understand me a bit better and you know where I came from. And to do that, it's necessary to go back to possibly my school days, where I'd done relatively well at school, even after not putting too much effort into it. And I'm sure if I'd applied myself a bit more, I could have probably done a lot better than I did. But I have no complaints, and I got what I wanted. But from a very early age, I was always very keen to follow my father's footsteps. And my father was a Chief Petty Officer in the Royal Navy. Indeed, when I was 3 months old, I spent the next 3 years with him in Singapore with my mother and that, with the Navy, and maybe something came from that, but right from a very young age I was interested in all things nautical, all things sea, all things water, and I desperately wanted to join the Navy as soon as I was old enough. And a few hiccups along the way, but eventually in that My father didn't want me to join the Navy. He wanted me to get some training outside, do an apprenticeship or something outside the Navy. Another big disappointment, actually, it's relevant to the story, is all my father's family and all my brothers, etc., were big football fanatics. The Glasgow Rangers, and those that know Scotland will know the hostility between Glasgow Rangers and Glasgow Celtic. And I was a disappointment in that football and the politics associated with it I had very little interest in. I took an interest in rugby, actually. I took up rugby union at school, and I enjoyed my rugby, and I became quite good at rugby, and as I say, enjoyed it, and it developed. And that I think initially was a big disappointment to my dad, etc., who had hoped that I'd follow the family tradition and be more into football, etc. And that carried on right until just before I joined the Navy, and I was playing rugby for the civil service in Scotland, and I was playing one match and in Linlithgow in Scotland, and my father and my brothers came across to watch the game, and it seemed to transform them all into more rugby orientated people, which I was happy about, and from then on everybody took an interest in rugby and football. So that's the preamble, and eventually I joined the Navy, and my father was still in the Navy when I joined, and it's coincidental that my first ship, which was an aircraft carrier called HMS Victorious, who, for those that might have some interest in the Royal Navy, an ex-Second World War aircraft carrier, that was my first ship, and we led a deployment of ships out to the Far East, and this would have been 1967, and crossing the Indian Ocean, we passed another aircraft carrier on its way back, HMS Eagle, and my father was on that, and we passed at a distance of about 300 miles apart. They were heading for home, and we were heading out to the Far East, and we did get a chance to speak to each other over the radio telephone, and he did get quite emotional, actually. I remember that. But anyway, so let's get down to the story. So we're talking about 1972. I think it was early 73, actually, but we're in Auckland, and we're in there as part of a large carrier force. The carrier, which was incidentally was the same carrier that my father was on, and my brother was now on, HMS Eagle, with the other capital ships involved, the destroyers, etc. They all went into Wellington in New Zealand, and the frigates, there was 4 or 6 frigates, I can't remember exactly. We got put into Auckland naval base in the North Island of New Zealand, which suited us very well, actually, to get away from the huge numbers of people on the main capital ships, so to speak. So we went in there on a Thursday, and I think we were in there for a 5-day visit, sailing again on the Monday, and the highlight to me was going to be the Saturday, because from the frigates that went in there, we had the makings of a very good rugby team from various members of the different ships' companies, and we had a match organised on the Saturday to play against the New Zealand Navy. Well, this was big stuff to us then as rugby players, because New Zealand's home game is rugby union, and they are probably the world's very best at rugby, and so it was a major challenge for us, and we were looking forward to it, and we were going to be playing for an international match, as we considered it, against the New Zealand Navy. Well, that was on the Saturday, and the Saturday was the day that we were looking forward to, the big day, and it really all started to go quite badly, actually, early on, because we went to play this rugby match. I think we kicked off about 11 o'clock in the morning, and we were absolutely thoroughly beaten by the New Zealanders. They thrashed us. I don't remember the score, and I don't really want to remember the score, but I know it was a significant beating that we got. But the aftermath, in the social aspect, in their senior rates mess in the or in one of the bars in the naval base there. We had a pleasant 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon discussing the match and getting to know each other, and it was a very pleasant afternoon actually, to which finished off the morning's festivities very well. Back to the ships, a couple of hours sleep I think, just to wear off the drink, showered, something to eat, and then out into Auckland in the evening to view the sights of the bars in Auckland. Now then, in those days when there wasn't so much terrorism around, when you were on a deployment like we were on, then it was expected that you go ashore in uniform, in your number 1 uniform. And that proved very advantageous actually, because it identified who you were anywhere. People knew, oh, these are the visiting naval guys from the UK, blah blah blah. And it helped with a lot of things. You got a lot of drinks bought you. You met some nice girls, all the rest of it. There was a lot of advantages in those days to wearing uniform. But unfortunately, when the world terrorism thing started getting worse, then they had to stop all foreign visits. People going out at night wearing uniform, because it was an added danger to the safety of personnel. So from then on, it was civilian clothing only. But for that particular visit, we were in uniform. Well, me and my Irish friend, we headed out. He was another rugby player. We headed out for a night in Auckland. Now, to get from Devonport, the naval base, across to Auckland, you had to catch a ferry actually, because there was a bridge, and there was a land way round, but that was a long way round. So the quickest way was to get the ferry across from Devonport across into Auckland itself. You'll see the skyline behind me here. Wonderful place and wonderful people. So me and my Irish friend, we headed off into Auckland, and a couple of bars, and we were having a good night. We were chatting, we were eyeing up some of the local talent, etc., as one does in these places. And it just transpired that we got talking to a couple of the barmaids in one particular bar. And this was getting late on in the evening. At that time they closed 10:30 or 11 o'clock, something like that, quite early anyway. And there was no nightclubs in Auckland itself. We got talking to these barmaids, and they said, well, what are you guys doing, And they said to us, and we said, well, not doing anything in particular. And they said, well, there's a nightclub that's several miles outside town. They said where all the bar staffs, etc., that tend to go after closing time. And if we wanted, we were invited to go along with these bar ladies, who I have to say were pretty attractive girls actually. So we decided, okay, we'll do that. And it had the makings of a good night ahead, and I was thoroughly enjoying it. So the bar closed and we got locked until the girls had finished cleaning up, etc., with an extra drink while we waited. And then we got a taxi, and we got a taxi out to this nightclub. I can't remember how far it was, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour or something like that outside town. But we got out there, and it was a busy place actually. There was a lot of people there. But when we went in, there was a strange atmosphere about it, and I couldn't put a finger on it, but anyway, maybe it was just I'd had too much to drink. So anyway, we got our drinks, and there was a dancing going on and all the rest of it, and I was getting very close to this barmaid that I'd been talking to, and we ended up dancing together and having some drinks together and more dancing together, and the dancing got more and more intimate, and we started a bit of smooching and a bit of tongues and all the rest of it, and it was all going very, very well. And then she said to me, what was my plans for Sunday, the next day? Well, actually it was probably that day then, but I said I had no plans. I said I'm free. I said, she said I've got a little place of my own down on the beach. She said, why don't you come back with me and spend the day with me tomorrow? Wow, was I hearing her right? This was too good to be true. Fantastic. So yes, this is a must. And this was like winning a lottery. So we went back to the table, and I noticed my friend, the Irishman, going to the toilet, and I thought, right, I better go and have a word with him. So I went out to the gents' toilet, and I said to him, I said, look, I said, when you get back to the ship, check me out till Monday morning. I'll be back on Monday morning. There's nothing for me to do on a Sunday anyway, so I'll be back on Monday. And he says, where are you going? He said, and a dry smile on his face. I said, well, that girl, whatever her name was, Jenny or something, whatever it was, I said, she's invited me down to her place for the night and for tomorrow to spend the day on the beach, etc. And he's burst out laughing. He says, you fucking what? I says, what are you laughing for? I says, it's brilliant. He says, don't you know? I said, don't I know what? He says, that Jenny isn't a girl, that's a man. Oh, I kind of lost my cool a little bit, and there was a guy came into the toilet, and I'm standing arguing with Mick, my Irish friend there, and I'm saying, you're drunk, you're fool, you don't even know what you're talking about. I've been dancing with her, I've been kissing her, I've been rubbing against her, all the rest of the thing. I said, I know a woman when I see one. He says, well, I think she's a man, he said. I said, well, you're fucking drunk, you're drunken cunt, you need to get back to the ship. So just then the guy that had walked in the toilet says, hey, hang on mate, he said, before you get too upset, he was saying to me, he says, I'd have a check if I was you, he says, because there's a lot of them in here that are cross-dressers, he says, and some of them have very tasty bits of stuff too, he said, so you need to make sure before you lose your temper too much. He says, don't forget, he says, this is a gay nightclub. Oh my God. So I still couldn't believe it. So anyway, I left the toilet and I went out and I went back to the table where we'd been sitting drinking to find that the table was empty, and this Jenny was up dancing with some guy on the dance floor. So I sat there drinking my drink, watching her, and then I saw her friend sitting very close. So I moved across to her friend. I said to her, excuse me, I said, this is a very bad question to be asking. I said, I'm very sorry to be asking it, actually. I said, but I said, can you tell me? I said, some people have mentioned that Jenny might not be Jenny. It might be Jimmy or a man's name. And she smiled. She says, didn't you know? I says, it's a man. She says, yes. Oh my God. I couldn't believe it. I was feeling mixed emotions, that's all I can say, really mixed emotions. Disappointed, fed up. But then I thought, now then, this girl I'm sitting talking to, she's on her own. So I started talking to her. And then it was about 5 minutes into the conversation, the penny suddenly dropped. I said, excuse me, I said, are you a guy? And she smiled and said, yes. Oh my God, that's it. So, drink my drink up. Let's get out of here. So I went and got a hold of my Irishman. I said, are you ready to go? And he said, yeah. He said, I'm ready to head back to the ship. So we went outside this nightclub. Now we had a problem because we had to find a taxi. And of course, it was the day before mobile phones. So we were told that taxis did call round occasionally, and we would just have to wait till one came round and it would be available. Okay, fair enough. So we were standing there for a while, and this car pulled up, and this guy got out, and he said, where are you going, guys? We said, well, we're trying to get back to our ship in Devonport. He said, okay. He says, that's not a problem. He says, jump in. He said, I'll run you over to Devonport. He says, not a problem. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah. He said, I'm happy to do that. He said, and this is about, by this time, it's maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning or something ridiculous like this. So we said, thank you very much. We'll recompense you for your fuel, etc. He said, no, not worry. He says, you're visiting here in Auckland. He says, my pleasure. Come on, let's get in and drive. So we got in. I sat in the front beside this driver, and my pal got in the back seat. And we're driving, and it's a fair drive because you had to drive all the way around the bay to get to Devonport. And when we were getting near, we were going over some very high mountainous, I don't know if they're mountains, they seemed like mountains at the time anyway. And all of a sudden he pulled into this hard spot that was there for, I suppose, for viewing or something like that. And he said, "Okay, guys," he says, "now it's time to pay the piper." "Pardon? What are you talking about?" He said, I said, "We offered you the money for the fuel." He said, "No," he said, "I don't want money." He says, "Come on, you're sailors, you know what life's all about." And he tried to put his hand on my groin, saying, "Come on," he said, "I'm sure we can come to some better arrangement than money." And then it clicked what this guy was after. Well, that just about finished my day completely, you know. So I said, "Mick," I said, "You see what this guy fucking wants? He's after, he's gay." We use a term that we use in the Navy. I didn't say he's gay, but the term was the same. I said, "He's gay and he thinks we're going to stay here and have some fun with him. What do you think, Mick?" He said, "Well, let's sort the guy out," he said. So we got out of the car, and it was the worst mistake that guy had made that night as well, because he picked up two pretty fit rugby players and straight heterosexuals to try and take advantage of. So what happened? Well, I don't remember exactly. I know we roughed him up a little bit, but we left him sitting at the side of the hard stand there, and we drove off in his car, telling him that we'd be leaving it near the naval base main gate, and the keys would be on top of one of the tyres or something like that. And we drove back down into Devonport ourselves and parked the car up. And that was a problem then, because we spent the rest of the time there, this Sunday, worrying, expecting any moment the police to turn up at the ship and with a complaint that this guy had made that his car had been stolen and with our descriptions, etc. But it didn't happen, and consequently on the Monday about 11 o'clock when we slipped and left the port and headed back out to sea to meet up with the main group of ships, there was a big sigh of relief that it had gone, all had gone okay. But that was my first brush with both the transgender people and the gay people, and it was very upsetting. Now just let me finish this off with a little bit of a story, because of the guys that I upset because of my comments previously. When I joined the Navy in 1965, you've got to remember that homosexuality was still illegal at that time, and anal sex did not become legal until 1967, I believe. But throughout my time in the Navy, it was a criminal offence in the military to be gay or to participate in anything gay, and many guys very sadly lost their careers because they did have these tendencies towards other guys, and if they were found out, particularly in the Navy, because you're in a small community on a ship, if they were found out in the Navy to be gay, they tended to have quite a hard ride out of the service, in that they'd probably get some beatings up and pushed off the ships and all the rest of it, and then they'd go into the shore establishments, the shore barracks, in disgrace, waiting to be court-martialed and dismissed the service. And some of them had been in the Navy a long time. They lost all their pension rights, etc. Which, looking back on it now, seems a bit unfair. I hope some of those guys got their pension rights back, but I don't know. Because eventually they did change even the military laws, but I think it's still very much frowned upon in the service. We were brought up to hate gays, and it's something, you can change the laws and you can change the outlook of people, etc., to the LGBT communities, but some things you cannot change within yourself, and I try to respect other people's opinions. Sometimes I might say the wrong things, and if I do, I apologise, but that's where it came from. So I hope you've enjoyed that story anyway, and please keep watching. Thank you for watching. Bye.